Hello, this is Tom Lambert, introducing a new member of the Windographer family called the Windographer Monitor. It helps Windographer Enterprise users automate data management. So, if you store wind resource data in a SQL database, and you use the Enterprise edition of Windographer to read from and write to that database, and you have multiple Met towers or remote sensors sending data to you on a regular basis, and you're wondering how to handle that in an efficient way, then Windographer Monitor might be a real time saver for you. It automates the ingestion of data into the database so that the analysts can focus on the data. Here's what it does. It monitors a set of folders. That means it watches for raw wind resource data files. And if a file appears in one of those folders, it will automatically open it, execute your flag rules on it, and then insert that data into the database in the appropriate place. It can alert you if a file fails to arrive on time or cannot be opened or fails one of your quality control checks. Well, here's what it looks like. This first tab shows the status of each data set you are monitoring. Here I have 6 data sets being monitored. For each of them, it shows me the period of record, the time of last import, the total number of files imported. And then these columns show the activity over the last 30 days. For each day, it indicates the number of files imported that day with a color code where green means no problems, yellow means some quality control alert. For example, a flag rule detected a sensor failure or low battery warning or something that you said was worthy of an alert. And red means that some error has occurred, like a file failed to appear or it could not be opened. Here are the properties of this first data set. There's a nickname, a longer description if you'd like. This is the important one. Here's the folder that it monitors for this data set. So, for example, if this is a Met Tower that emails you a data file every night, you can set up Outlook or your own custom scripts or some system that deposits those data files in this folder. Windographer Monitor will watch this folder all the time. And whenever a data file appears in this folder, it will open it, run the appropriate flag rules, and then it connects to your database and it says, append this new data to Bluebird M3832 in this case. And then it moves the file to the output folder. Just to clarify that it has processed that file, it's finished with it. I'm going to close this file and look at another. This dataset has a different input folder. You're mapping this folder to this dataset in this database. We map that other folder to that other dataset, right? So like I said, you have to set up a system where the raw data files for Tower A get dropped in the Tower A folder. And then you come here and you map the Tower A folder to the Tower A dataset in the database. And then once you've made that link, Windographer takes over and imports any data that appears in that folder, runs those flag rules, and appends it to the Tower A dataset in the database. These append settings let you control what happens when any conflict occurs between the newly imported file and the database. For example, if the data file said that some data column is the wind speed at 78 meters, but the database thinks that that data column is the speed at 20 meters above ground. Or maybe the file says it's temperature, whereas it's identified in the database as relative humidity or something different. That would be a conflict in the column metadata. Other types of conflicts can happen. For example, the file and the database might disagree on the latitude-longitude coordinates or the elevation. These settings let you choose whether the database wins that kind of argument or the file wins. Or you might say, don't append the data in that case. If there's that kind of mismatch, then something went wrong, like the file was placed in the wrong folder. So just stop, don't corrupt the data set in that database. This is an automated system, right? So you tell it how to handle the difficult situations, and then you go on vacation, and while you're on the beach, it executes your instructions without needing any additional input from you. All right, these quality control settings let you indicate which flag rules to execute on the newly arrived data and whether any of them are worthy of an alert. So let's say this is a SDR data logger. Here I'm saying to flag icing events and low battery voltage and out of range values and sensor failure. But I only want an alert in the case of low voltage or sensor failure. In other words, icing is a problem. It's a data quality issue, but it's not really a data management issue. It's not an emergency. The ice is going to melt when the weather warms up. But a sensor failure or a dead battery or a lightning strike, that's an emergency, a data emergency anyway. If anything like that happens, I want to know about it immediately so I can send a crew out to that tower to fix the problem right away. So if either of these rules catch and flag any data points, then Windographer Monitor will alert you with this yellow status. So yellow means some type of quality control alert, and red means either the file didn't appear at all or it couldn't be opened. So this status tab shows the summary of the current situation and the recent past. It lets me edit the properties of any of these data sets, like we've already seen. And I can click this button to stop monitoring a data set. And if I want to start monitoring another data set, I can do that with this button. That's the status tab. The activity tab shows a more detailed list of all the activity for as long as you've been using Windographer Monitor. You can sort on any of these columns. So this activity tab serves as a detailed log of everything the software has done. All right, here's a very simple demonstration of what happens when Windographer Monitor detects and reads in new data files. I'm just going to copy some files into this input folder to simulate the arrival of new data. That's 11 files. It can handle 1,000 at a time. It doesn't matter. It just works its way through the list. Each time reading the file, running the flag rules, and then placing it in the database. And when that's finished, I can go to Windographer. This is the Enterprise Edition that can connect to SQL databases. And import that data set and see those 11 days I just pulled in, including any flags. All right, I want to answer a couple of frequently asked questions here. Number one, what kind of data files can it import? Well, it can import any data format that Windographer can import, which are all of these. Windographer Monitor is powered by Windographer. It has access to all of its import logic, flag rule logic, database communication capabilities. So that's why it reads data files just like Windographer does. Number two, does this monitoring happen all the time or just when I'm running this program? The answer is that it monitors all the time. In fact, Windographer Monitor consists of two pieces of software. The visible program that I can interact with, and a Windows service that runs invisibly in the background all the time. Actually, if I switch back to Monitor, it shows the status of the service right here, just to confirm that it's running. Programs like OneDrive and Dropbox run as services on your computer all the time in the background. The Windographer Monitor service operates just like that. It runs in the background all the time. You'd probably set it up to run not on somebody's personal computer that gets turned on and off each day, but on a server that's always operating. So that service that's always running actually does all the work here. It keeps scanning the folders that you've told it to monitor. It imports the files. It communicates with the database. The visible program exists just so you can control the process and see the current status. Number three, where does the data reside? The answer to that is wherever you want it to reside. You can put it on a local server in your office or in corporate headquarters or a secure location in the cloud, wherever you decide. It does not get sent to UL. You directly identify the database actually, either with a ODBC data source or a connection string, and that's where the data goes. Simple as that. Finally, what type of database can it connect with? Can it connect to my database? Yes, almost certainly it can. It can integrate with any SQL database that meets the specifications of Windographer Enterprise, which is just to say, any database that contains the necessary stored procedures. It communicates with the database exclusively by calling stored procedures, so it doesn't have to know anything about the structure of the database, the table names, the field names, none of that. It just calls a stored procedure to say, read this data or write this data. So the database can be in SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, Postgres, or any database platform that supports stored procedures. If you already have a database, you or your database team can write the stored procedures to allow it to talk to Windographer. Our specifications explain that. If you do not already have a database, you might want to consider another product of ours, Windographer Database Creator, which just builds an empty database for you. In a few seconds, it creates a very sensible data structure appropriate for wind resource data, and it writes all the stored procedures necessary for that database to talk to Windographer. All right, that's Windographer Monitor, start to finish. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in more information or would like to get started testing it, you're welcome to get in touch with us. You can write to me at tom.lambert@ul.com, or you can write to the whole team at windographer.support@ul.com. Thank you again.